let's pick up where we left off and go ahead to put up our Flask site on the server. So we had nginx running here, and we're going to deploy it. We're going to deploy Flask underneath nginx. Now, there's a handful of different ways that you could start from here, and some setups are going to be more production ready than others. I pulled up an image here that I want to share that I think gives a decent little overview of how this could work. So we have the web accessing nginx, right? That's what we've got going right now. And nginx is just returning its default HTML page that comes with it. And we want to run our Flask app. So we can run our Flask app with Python like we just ran it locally and connect that to nginx. We could have Flask talk right to the web like what we were doing locally. And you know, the most layered setup is putting something like UWSGI, or another alternative would be Gunicorn. What are these things? So UWSGI and Gunicorn, these are layers that will handle running the Flask app itself. And so you can see here, right, they're running 3 instances of the Flask app. If we ran Flask, which is the Python hello.py, then we're just gonna have one single instance running. WSGI protocol through the UWSGI here, it can run 10 of our Flask apps, right? So that if anyone crashes, you know, our whole site's not going to go down, and it'll restart that automatically. So it handles the restarting, it handles multiple processes. It can even handle multiple sites. And that's all handled by UWSGI. I'm not going to show that now. First, let's just get our Flask app up and running. We're going to first try to get it talking to the web directly, and then we'll try to put it inside nginx. So I do have opened up here one magic file, and this is going to be for connecting Flask directly to nginx. So here, right, I've got the basic shell that we'll need for the server block for nginx. So let's get back on our server and look at what we already have running with nginx first. So if we go back to the server, we'll see here all of nginx's configuration should be in etc. nginx. And the main nginx file is nginx.conf, nginx.config. So this defines nginx process itself. The user, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm not going to go through all of it in detail. It can provide SSL, so we can use nginx to do all of the SSL wrapping. We don't have to worry about doing that in Flask, though you could. You could with the Python process in Flask. But here, right, it can handle gzipping content. So web browsers automatically can load files that are gzipped instead of the plain files. And so there's a lot less data transfer. So a lot faster, some speed ups from this. So generally I would turn a number of these options on. And the line we're going to look at here, you can see it's going to go ahead at this point and include the subfile of sites enabled. So all of the sites that are in here are going to get run. So let's see what's going on. So if you go to etc. nginx and we look at the sites enabled, let's just go ahead and actually list this because we're going to have a symlink. So default is going to point to sites available default. So we can go ahead and look at this guy here. And you can see this is actually the site that I think we were seeing. So here we got listen 80 on the default server, var www.html, and everything's mostly commented out here. This is the basic site. So what this is doing, it's saying serve all the content in this folder as our site. So if we look at what's in there, right, we see this index. And this is actually the index file that we got here. Cool. We could, modify it if we want. We could build a static site if we want, that simply, right? We could just have nginx serve it for us. So we want to get our Flask app up and running. First, let's not worry about nginx. Let's actually shut nginx down. Service nginx stop. All right, so nginx is down. We can probably confirm this. And let's go ahead and get our Flask app code up here. So we're in probably home Ubuntu. We are. And so let's go ahead and copy our code up there. Let's make a directory called app. And let's go ahead and use SCP, the most basic protocol here, to copy, get downloads, keep here, that's our identity file, -i identity. And let's go ahead and load up, this would be teaching, W209, and let's see. So let's get the slides from 2020. And I think in section 2, we have our Flask app put it in here so it's all in GitHub. And really all we need is this hello.py file. So let's go ahead and copy that up into home, Ubuntu. I don't think I need the full path, I just need the relative path, but let's go with the full path and we'll put it into app. So we can go back, log back in, go into app, and see what we have here. Okay, we got it. Cool. While I'm talking, let's go ahead and install Python. Apt-get install Python 3 pip. Python 3. Oh, we already have it. Python 3 dash develop. I think we might need the develop branch of Python 3. I should look it up. Okay, we're not going to worry about that. Let's see. It looks like we already have it installed. We could go grab the name of the Python if we want. But let's see. So if we see which Python we have on the server, let's take a look. It said 382. Sorry, 385. So here we go. It does look like 382. But here we go. Let's see. List line user bin PyStar. See what we got here. Looks like just 3.8. So okay, let's go ahead and use that to run our app. So we saw that, I think if we look at our hello.py, right, we saw that here we did do the if name is main and we ran dev as false. Let's make one more modification. So let's edit this file and let's tell it that the host is, we want this to actually host the web server itself. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and run it. So Python 3 and hello.py. We're going to have to install pip, of course. Probably should use a virtual environment, but I'm not going to do that here to save your time. No module named pip. Okay, I think we are going to need Python 3 pip. So let's run it like this. And no, we don't have it again. Okay, so let's go ahead and run Python 3 pip. I just had to update apt-get. And here we go. We'll install Flask, then we can run it. We're going to want to hit, we're going to also tell Flask to run at port 80 because based on our AWS security settings, that's the only port that we actually had open. Okay. Here we go. Let's check which pip3 we have. Good, we have pip3. Let's just install it globally again. Let's get Flask. Okay, yeah, it's not on the path. That's okay, we don't care. We're just going to run this with Python 3. And we'll do Python 3 hello.py. Doop. Unexpected argument dev. We were fighting with that one before. Let's just turn it off. All right, so we are running. If we go to our web server, then let's go ahead and, yeah, we didn't, the command was fine. We just had to actually run the update. And let's go to our server and do port 5000. We're going to get blocked, right? We saw where Flask was installed. It gave us a little warning that home Ubuntu local bin is where Flask is installed. Let's check the option for the port. Here we go, help version. So let's go ahead and set our port to be 80. And hello.py. Permission denied, port 80. Sudo does not have. Doesn't have permissions. It's not seeing Flask on sudo. Why would it not see it? Sudo. There we go. And we should go ahead and run this again. If we're not port, you can tell we want port 80. And hello world, we got our Flask app running. Beautiful. Okay. Beautiful, if a little painful, to work through this from scratch. But I think it's helpful to see the process, and that's why I try to work through it this way. So here we go. We're running it. Let's not do that. So let's go ahead and turn that off. We can run our Flask app. Our code is okay. But let's go ahead and run it with the local host, and let's run it with a default host and port. So let's just do app.run. So we should still be able to run it. Right, you can see we're here. And now this is, we can run it like that. Now here's where we're going to need our little script that we had in Atom here. So we're going to want to set this up. We'll do it here. Our server name, right, we're calling this demo.aws.andyreagan.com. Alias, so this could serve static files. Our project is actually in home Ubuntu app static. So if we had static files, we just want nginx to serve those. It can do that for us. Anything that's demo.aws.andyreagan.com/static would be pulled out of this folder. And then here, right, this is where we actually want to do that proxy pass. So let's go ahead and pass off on the internal network to the server. So only inside the server can this be seen, and we'll pass off there. So it's going to take this whole block. I'm going to go ahead and edit the etc. nginx sites. I'm just going to go ahead and do it right in sites enabled. I'm going to call this one nginx. Or sorry, let's go ahead and call it Flask. This is our Flask setup. And look like we're good to go. Oops. Let's not save it. We need to sudo that. And then let's go ahead and remove etc. nginx sites enabled. Let's remove the link. So sites enabled default. We'll leave the default site over in sites available, and we could create that link lm-s if we wanted to for our own site. But now we've turned it on, so let's go with let's go ahead and start nginx service nginx start. It will give us any warnings at this point if our config file wasn't up to par. So let's go ahead and try it. We have the trailing slash and the proxy pass. I know that's a pretty common problem. So let's jump back to Safari and see what we got here. Oh, bad gateway. Something isn't happy. Oh, you know why? It's because we don't have our app running. There's nothing listening at that internal port. So let's go ahead and run it. And there we go, right? So nginx is handing off to Flask nicely. Now, of course, you can see one of the problems, right? We have this Python process running, and that's what nginx is handing off to. So here, next steps would be to go ahead and take these unicorn JSGI, fill them out, right? They're going to look a lot like this, except the way that they hand off is not going to be with an internal HTTP request. Probably, I mean, you could do it that way with these services, but you could also, I think a Unix socket is one of the preferred methods to hand off between these two. And that would be the next step to get it online. As of now, right, we have our server online, right? We should be able to see anything in static. Of course, there's no base static URL. We can touch, static hello.txt, right? Echo hello, pretty boring, and the hello.txt. Yep. Make directory. Well, we don't need -p here, we're just one deep. Let's go for it. And then we should be able to go to static. You can tell it to list directories. Here it's actually not listing it by default for us. And I think we call this hello.txt. There we go. We got hello. So it's serving that. It doesn't actually need this web server running to handle that request from nginx. So that's pretty cool. If we had our server running, right, we can go ahead and hit our API. And of course, this is where you can get to, you could serve up any database connection you want through Python. You can use the script to connect any database and serve up those results through an API. You could have a machine learning model running inside the Python code, right? I think that's pretty easy to see how to do. You're in flexible free Python in hello.py, load your model from the disk, and you can go ahead and serve stuff posted to the API, and you have a running model service. In this class, right, we're talking about visualization, so we can go ahead and use Flask to build out any type of visualization we want. We can connect to data. We can use whatever we want in the front and back end. So this is a a full stack setup, not production ready, because I would want to throw UWS GI in front of it and do a few steps to harden the server. But this is up and running, and I think it'll work well for our purposes. So that's all for now. Thanks.